Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Phil Amaro. I wanted to sit back. My current legal name is Phil Amaro. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this Child Protective Services and how detrimental this agency is to our children. It's one of those agencies that say that they're here to protect children, but ultimately they're not. They're really not. You know, I will say I believe some children have been saved. You know, I was a product of the social services department when I was a kid, from 3 to 18. You know, so I understand a lot of what the system does and how the system, works. So what I want to do is I just want to just give you a little background history as to the things that I've encountered with social services when it came to the removal of my children. You know, my children actually got removed, but they didn't get removed from me. That's the kicker. They didn't get removed from me. You know, they actually got removed from their mother. You know, um, we have 7 children together. Sometimes it can get a little overwhelming, and she found herself in a position where she couldn't uh, take care of all 7 of them by herself. So so what happened was I ended up having to go to jail to finish out a probation that I got violated for. At the time, my probation officer came to me and she said, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and violate your probation because it'll be easier, it'll be better for you to do your probation, do the time that you have in New York, and then come back down here to North Carolina, Wake County, and you'll be a free man. Now, I didn't really like the idea, but I actually ended up catching a DWI in New York to my previous uh, uh, fiance at our engagement party. And I was drinking, and it got the better of me, and I ended up catching DWI. Um, I pleaded guilty to the DWI, and I ended up getting 5 years probation for the DWI. I know it's a lot, but that's what I ended up getting. Um, came down to North Carolina, ended up violating uh, my probation, and then after violating my probation, um, my probation officer, even though New York wasn't intent on coming to get me, my probation officer had given me that heads up as to what would be in my best interest, and ultimately it was in my best interest, to go ahead and go to New York, do the 12 months, and then come back and then not have any probation over my head. I thought it ended up working out well for me. But in that time that I was in that I was in New York, the last few months, I received uh, uh, some letters from social services and my attorney informing me that the children had been taken, from the mother and were now in the custody of the state. As you can imagine, I was very, very upset, very, very upset about that. You know, so what ended up happening was I had a court date in April of 2018, down here. And I ended up petitioning the judge in New York to allow me to get out a few weeks earlier, just so that I can make it to my April court date in North Carolina. Surprisingly, the judge the judge honored it, and he allowed me to get out, and I ended up writing the judge when I got down to North Carolina, and let him know that I really was appreciative and thankful for him allowing me to get out and go to and make it to that court date, because that court date was very, 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 very important. Had I not made it to that court date, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to um, accomplish some of the things that I was able to accomplish in such a short period of time. So I made it down to North Carolina. I ended up uh, making it to the court date. I got to the house that I'm living at right now um, on a Friday, and I cleaned it up real good. Made sure everything was good to go. I broke everything down, everything that was in the house. I just totally just threw away. You know, After I threw everything away, I ended up uh, sleeping here. There was no lights, there was no water or anything. Within a couple days of moving back into this house, I ended up getting my water, lights, and everything cut on. I even got cable cut on. I don't even really watch TV, but I was more looking at the possibility of my children coming home and them having things to do, and some sort of entertainment when it came to their life. As far as at home. So I ended up getting all these things situated, but not before court. The judge ended up being surprised that I was at court because I had written her letters in my support of my children, and as the kind of father that I am, very very hands-on father, very into everything that my children are doing. It's that's just the type of father I am. Never will I not care about my children ever. I've never shown that. Everybody that has known me, down to teachers when my kids were babies, down to now, will say one thing for sure, two things for certain: that man loves his kids, and I do. I do. I really love my kids. I didn't have the opportunity to grow up and have a family. I was taken away from my family, my biological family, at 3 years old, placed in foster care at 4, and never got a chance to see my family again until I was probably around 22 years old, about 22 years old. So it was kind of devastating. But needless to say, they took away my mother and my father's parental rights. You know, so with that being said, I am not a stranger to the heinous things that go on in foster care. While I was in foster care, I ended up being sent to many, many, many different foster homes. I wrote a book on it. It's called "Born into Foster Care, Raised in Jail." So I was in so many different foster homes. And I got a chance to see so many different things. I got the chance to see how families acted, good families, bad families. I really had a chance to observe so much in such a in that period of time. For me, it wasn't a short period of time. I was in there for a very very long time. By myself. I didn't have nobody, no family support, no anything. It was just me growing up by myself in the group home. So that was ultimately tough, and it was hard. And the last thing that I would have ever wanted was for my children to end up going through anything similar to what I went to when I was a kid. That's me when I was in the group home. That's, I don't know if you can see it well, but let me see if I can pull it back a little bit. But that's me. I don't know if you can see it. It's probably a glare. But that's me when I was in the group home. You know, I was about 8 years old in that picture. So I'm not a stranger. I'm not a stranger to the criminal. I mean, to the system of foster care. So with that being said, after I ended up getting out, I ended up going to court, and I met with the caseworker. I met with the guardian ad litem, and everybody seemed to be very receptive, very very welcoming, very very happy that I was back, and able to get in my children's lives. I guess that that's how they appeared. They appeared to be happy about that. um after that court date, we ended up setting up a visit, a plan to be able for me to be able to see my children and talk to my children and set up a plan of things that I needed to create. You know, um, after setting up that plan, after setting up that plan, I initially completed everything that they asked me to do in a period of about 5 months. About 5 months. See, I'm an entrepreneur. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always been an entrepreneur. It's just something that I really enjoy doing. I really enjoy working hard, grinding, and setting my own hours and building my own business. It's one trait that I learned that me and my biological father actually have in common. We're entrepreneurs, and that's something that you know I I've always enjoyed being. So as soon as I came back, I jumped right into entrepreneurship. This was really good for me because it allowed me it allowed me to be able to work with the schedule that they have, which they have a very, very tough schedule. Very, very tough schedule. I am a firm believer that if you are a working person, a 9 to 5 working person, that it is very difficult for you to accomplish the things that they ask you to accomplish in a reasonable amount of time because their schedules, they don't care about your schedule. They care about what they want. So as soon as your schedule conflicts with them, you know, then it's written down that you're missing meetings, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. But I never had any of those problems at all. I never had any of those problems because I was an entrepreneur. I quickly established myself, and I was able to make money and do well. And I ended up having a car. A Taurus. It ended up breaking down. It just wasn't working anymore. I've always been big on credit. Fix your credit, get your credit together, do the right thing. Because I had good credit, after I got out of jail, I was able to go to the car dealership and get a brand new car. Get a brand new car. I knew I needed transportation. I had to be able to get to my children, get to work, and do the things that I needed to, be able to be able to do. Um, so that was something that was really, really good for me, and everything was working out. Everything was working out very well. Um, Let me see. So all of that was working out. All of that was working out real well. Um, come to come to find out, I ended up going to various different meetings. They're called CFT meetings, in which my children were being placed in environments that weren't good. They placed my second oldest. They sent my oldest son off to a military school, which I told them not to do. And as the person whose rights were not terminated, that's something that they shouldn't have done. They should have waited for me to get back. I told them not to send them to the military school. I told them not to send them to the military school. They sent them to the military school, and uh, that really disturbed me. It really disturbed me. He didn't do well in the military school, and it was as if he was just failing, at what he was trying to accomplish. So, there was no way that he could excel in an environment that he wasn't ready for. And I tried to explain to them, you're sending my son into an environment that he's not ready for. Not only is he not ready for, but you're just telling him the goods. You're not preparing him for the bads, the things that can go wrong, the things that he will experience in this environment. Thus, he didn't do well, and then it made him look like he had behavioral problems. Um, Now, my son doesn't have behavioral problems. He's a very good kid, very respectful overall. Has he done some negative things? Yeah, he has done some negative things. Does he have a little attitude? Yes, he has a little attitude, but he's 17 years old, around 16, 17. What teenager doesn't have a little attitude? Was he a little difficult to control when I wasn't around? Yes, probably. Me coming back around, I was able to make sure that had he been here, that he would have been, under control. I would have had the opportunity to reel him in much earlier than allowing him to see so much nonsense, and then just kind of like build up a resentment and an anger for a lot of things that was going on. After that, they ended up sending him to a group home. You know, um, I feel like why are my children being punished? It was the thing that I was my biggest thing. Why are you punishing my children for something that they had nothing to do with? Yeah, their behavior might have contributed, but their children, why are they being punished for these actions, more or less? Um, so then after that, my second oldest son and my two younger children, my let's say my oldest son and my youngest son and my third oldest son was all sent to a home out in Middlesex, and they was just sent to the middle of nowhere, absolutely nowhere. Now, my children, those three in particular, they don't have behavioral problems at all. They really don't. They just like their electronics. They like just doing what they do, and that's pretty much it. That's all they like to do. So they sent all the way out to Middlesex, and they're with this older family. They're with this older family, and she has absolutely no plans for them on a daily basis. They are just in the house all day, just in the house. My second oldest son started getting depressed, just sleeping all day. I had to try to call him and say, hey, you have to try to get out the house. You have to try to, do something, stay motivated. But he was just constantly depressed. He just was out in the middle of nowhere with absolutely nothing to do. My youngest son and my second oldest son, um no my second oldest son and my third oldest son and my youngest son, they began to fuss and fight. you know um in my mind, it's like, okay, you put these children in an environment where they can't do anything at all. Only thing they can do is just stay in this house. Like, that's it. It's all they can do is stay in this house. And now they're being they begin to fuss and fight. I mean, naturally, if you put a bunch of men together or put a bunch of boys together, sooner or later they're going to fuss, they're going to fight. So that's what they began to exhibit. But the foster parent had so much power, they don't listen to the children. They listen strictly to the foster parent, who's telling them, oh, these kids have issues, these kids have problems. See, that's what the system is looking for. That's what the system is looking for. The system is looking for foster parents that will tell them that children have problems. Because my children came into the system with no problems, never ever been on medication, never had any type of behavioral problems. Now, this foster parent says these children have problems, they have issues, and immediately, as soon as they say that, now they want to go ahead and start trying to put these kids, my children, on medication and trying to put them on in therapy and all this. I'm like, no. So now I begin to get defiant. I begin to get defiant. My children have never been in therapy. My children have never needed medication. You're not going to start that now. My rights are not terminated. You will not put my children on no kind of medication. So they hit a brick wall with me there, because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to, butter me up. Hey, we had a situation where, we think that your children need some kind of support, maybe some medical attention, just to kind of calm them down. No, we're not doing that. We're not putting my children on medication. When I was in foster care, they gave me medication because nobody was there to fight for me, and because of that medication, I ended up actually turning out good, because they put me on these medications that were uppers and downers. So at the end of the day, the medications ended up canceling each other out. So they didn't really have an effect on me, but had they had an effect on me, it would have been detrimental. I probably would have been like a zombie, just walking around, you know slouching, just just a complete zombie. And that's what this medication does. It turns these children into zombies. You're not going to put my children into You're not going to put my children on medication. So with that being said, I ended up with that being said, it just reminded me of my mother, my foster mother, who, as soon as she ended up getting me out of the group home, she took me immediately off of medication. He doesn't need it. Boom, just that fast. There was no problems. There was the correlation from medication to not having medication was one and the same. That I didn't have any problems. I didn't warrant to have any medication. So I was fine. So you take fine children, kids that are fine, kids that are angry because of what they're going through and not being explained what they're going through, which was my case, as a child. And then I'm acting out. Yeah, I'm going to act out. You just took me from my whole entire family, and I don't even know what's going on. I don't know where you're sending me. I don't know where you're putting me. You know, I'm going to become upset. Every 5 minutes, you want to pick me up, put me somewhere else, put me somewhere else, bring me somewhere else. And this is the same routine that they was trying to start with my children. So after being in that home, the final straw for me was the foster mother calling the police on my, at the time, 10-year-old son. He's 10. He's 10 years old. Why are you calling the police on a 10-year-old because he's kicking and screaming? He's upset and he might be banging on a couple of walls. Okay, that he's 10 years old and he is upset at his current environment. He is very, very thin, very, very small. There is no way that you, as a foster parent, should not be able to control a foster child if you've been doing this for 20 years. And that was her argument. Very, 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 very mean woman. Very, very, very mean woman. She just kept saying, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this for 20 years, 20. Well, if you've been doing this for 20 years, then you should be able to know how to talk to these children. You should be able to know how to calm these children down, how to talk to these children, how to, reason with these children and get these children to a place where they can be able to calm down. To call the police on a 10-year-old, that's a traumatizing experience. Now it's like he's already hearing stories of police shootings and this, that, and now you bring the police into your home to discipline my child. How is he not going to fear for his safety? I immediately, that information wasn't even given to me right away. It wasn't even, she didn't even, that information wasn't even disclosed to the agency, or it was disclosed to the agency, but it wasn't disclosed to caseworkers, social workers, or me, or anybody that it was needed to be disclosed to. So I set up I talked to the guardian ad litem, and I set up a meeting. And I'm very, very upset. I'm like, this is what happened, and this is what happened. I want my children out of there. I want my children removed. They set up a meeting. Again, they set up the CFT. Again, the foster parent, becomes very defensive. The agency that oversaw the foster parent, also, became defensive. But him being a man, I was able to more channel my disgust at him as to, why did y'all know this information about police being called on my child and y'all refusing to disclose it? Why wouldn't y'all tell, the agency, or social services? Or why wouldn't you tell me that my son had an encounter with the police? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do that? Hey, Messiah, could you text me? I'm doing my YouTube video. Yeah, just give me some time. Text me. All right. Excuse me for that. So I'm sitting here disgusted with the agency. Like, y'all had this information, but y'all not going to disclose it to me. Like, why are y'all treating children this way? Why are you treating parents this way? Why these are my children. These are my children that are in your system. I have to let my children be in your care. Why not care for my children? This is the problem that I'm having. So eventually my children ended up being moved. They was moved to another foster home. They was moved to another foster home. My son was moved to a very nice foster home. The family was very, 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 very nice. Very nice. No problems. I mean, they are the model foster home family, and I would like to shout them out. They are Mr. and Mrs. Marshall. I mean, they are. I applaud them. They are very, very awesome foster parents. Um, my son ended up. My other son ended up moving into another home, and my my youngest son got stuck out in Middlesex. Yeah, he had to stay out there in Middlesex. Which was real tough for him. The only good thing about it was that my oldest son was in a group home in Middlesex, so he had an opportunity to get out of sometimes be able to see his brother from time to time. You know, um, so now we have the CFT. The CFT is set up. I say what I need to say. I let these people know how I feel. They want me to just they want parents to just be all smiley, smiley, go happy, lucky, lucky, so much and so forth. No, you have to represent your children. But in the process of representing your children, you make sure that what they ask you to do, you do. You get done, because you have no legs to stand on if you are trying to fight for something when you haven't completed what it is that you need to complete. Everything they ask me to do, I'm completing. I'm finishing. I'm finishing. Every time they're in disbelief. They're in disbelief. My lawyer even said to me, they don't come across cases where the parents, especially a black, man, fighting for his children, has completed and can complete so much in such a short period of time. So I completed what they asked me to do. Psychological evaluations, fine. Drug tests, fine. Everything, just visits, fine. Anything they asked me to do, that on that initial list of things, recommendations, I was done. It was an 18-month list that I was not supposed to complete. I'm very firm. I'm a very firm believer on it. I was not supposed to complete that. But I did. I did it in 5 months. So I had legs to stand on. When it came to me to rebuke everything that they was doing and everything that they were saying, I was able to. But it also became a situation where I was able to talk to my children on a regular basis and get the information that I needed from them. That's the very, very important thing that I think a lot of parents are missing when they're trying to get their children back is talk to your children. Talk to your children. Let your children let you know what it is that they're going through, because if they let you know what you're going through, then you can go fight for them. I understand you're fighting for yourself and you're fighting this system, but the reality is you're fighting for your children. So you have to listen to what it is that your children are telling you or is going on, because about 75% of these foster homes are bad. They take a 30-hour class. The only thing they have to do is not have a Uh, let me see. Let me see if I can pull it up. I don't think I have it in front of me. But only thing they have to not have is a criminal record. As long as they don't have a criminal record, then they can go ahead and become foster parents. And uh, the major 75% of these foster homes, they do not care about your child. These foster homes are getting checks. They're getting checks for your child. They don't care. They don't care about your child. So it is your responsibility to make sure that your child is is heard by you and by the system. Because if your child is not heard, then your child is going to get lost. And then they're going to start setting your child up with all of these mental issues, mental problems, and all of this and all of that. When at the end of the day, your child is lost. They just don't know what's going on. So I implore you, listen to your children. Your children probably don't need medical help. They probably don't need medical assistance. They just need somebody that they can trust to talk to. They've been stripped from their natural environment, some rightfully, many not. So talk to your children. That's the reason behind them acting out. Don't let the system tell you that your child is acting out because they are bad children. No. Don't allow the system to do that to you as a parent. Don't allow your system to do that to your child. So my child ends up going to staying in Middlesex. His brother's out there. His brother's calling me up, letting me know this is my oldest son I'm talking about now. He's calling me up and he's like, Daddy, look, I'm really having a tough time out here. you know um I feel like I'm just gonna keep getting in. I'm gonna get into fights out here. He doesn't want to go to school. Never really was a school kid. That part I really don't understand. But to each his own. In my opinion, education is very, very important. The actual things that they teach you in school overall might not be important, but the aspect of being able to go to school and be able to learn and pay attention and use your brain, those are the things that are important. Being able to learn how to sit still, learning how to ask questions, learning the skills that you need in life. As far as learning, that's what's important. The material that they teach you in school, in my opinion, it sucks. It's really worthless at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, with the exception of math, which is very, very important, and um a few other subjects, school is very, very conditioned. It doesn't really do you any good. But it's very, very important for you to teach your child, if they're going to go to a traditional school or a public school, that their behavior is what matters. Their behavior, them using their brain to think, is what matters. Because when they get out into the workforce, that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to use their brain. They're going to have to learn how to listen. They're going to have to learn how to pay attention. They're going to have to learn how to focus. They're going to have to learn how to do the job. They're going to have to learn how to sit still. So these are the things that are important when it comes to school. Now you find yourself a school that teaches all the necessary things that these schools need to teach you in order for children to be successful in the world. Then yes, now the educational aspect of school becomes very, very important. But as of right now, the only thing that's very important in school is being able to learn how to listen, use your brain, sit still, ask questions. Those are the primary aspects of school. Because if you can't do that, then at a very early age, you're deemed a misfit to society. So teach your child the importance behind being able to do the right thing in school, so that they won't be considered a misfit when they're just a child, maybe a happy child, or a child who's just, has a lot of energy, That's how I view school at this present moment. But find a school where they teach you life skills such as banking, such as credit, such as carpentry, such as um, mechanics, and very very important issues. And now those other skills that I speak of become enhanced because now you're actually learning something that's going to actually help you in life. So find a school like that, and your child will be even more amazing, because there are not any not amazing children. All children are amazing. So find that school, and your child will be amazing, even more amazing. You know, so like I said, so my son calls me. He's like, I feel like I'm getting into fights out here, so much and so forth. He's having to stand his ground, too much. Why is my son going from a military academy now having to go to a group home where he has to fight and feel like he has to fight and has to feel threatened. Now you're building anxiety. You're building anxiety in the heart and mind of a child. And what do they do? What do they want to do? They want to put him in therapy. What do they want to do? They want to put him on medication. No, it's not happening. I'm not going to allow it. I'm not going to allow it, because are y'all are creating these mental issues that my children are now displaying. It has nothing to do with what they have. It's what y'all are creating through your system for my children. So I'm not going to go for it. I've been in my children's life their whole entire lives. I know what they are capable of doing, what they're not capable of doing, and what they will not do. So my son ended up getting expelled from school. A strategy of his that he ended up being able to fulfill. And I was able to move him back to Raleigh, North Carolina, from Middlesex, and allow him to go stay with his grandfather. You know, what I'm saying? So I allowed him to stay with his which I didn't, but I petitioned for him to be able to stay with his grandfather. Spoke to his grandfather. His grandfather said, okay, as long as he had my support, he would, and so much and so forth. So my son started striving. He started doing very well. He has his own issues, laziness, such and such, such and such, whatever. Typical teenage things. He's a teenager. He's still trying to find his way. Not a bad kid. Hey, maybe just a lazy one. But hey, it is what it is. All the children aren't going to be the same. You know, um, but then we have the situation of my daughter. Again, she's staying in this is my oldest daughter. She's staying with a foster lady by the name of Barbara Kerr. Very very nice young lady. Again, I would like to applaud her. Barbara Kerr is amazing. She did a very very good job at keeping my daughter um, very 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 tightly held. And basically, like, hey, this is what we're going to create. We're going to create a structure for you, but it was a damaging structure to where she felt that she um she was more happy where she was at than wanting to come home, which we'll get into with another daughter of mine, with a foster placement. you know um so she did well. But then my daughter said she wanted to actually be able to go from, I have 7 children. She wanted to go stay with her brother. So I encouraged her at the time to write her attorney. See, that's what my ignorance came in. See, I didn't know that I'm gonna set you up for that one. So I told her, write her attorney. I'm writing my attorney. My attorney is starting to get involved. I keep my attorney involved in everything. Every correspondence that's going on, my attorney is involved. My attorney is involved. My attorney is involved. Um she is very invested in this case, to the point where when the caseworkers at the recent court date tried to tell me that I wasn't being supportive of my children's therapy, my lawyer was able to say, oh yes he has been, because I've received messages from the therapist saying that he's going here and he's going there to and such and such and such and such. So because I allowed my lawyer to be involved in the case, then that became a situation to where she knew what was going on. I told them I had gotten to a point where I told them, y'all will don't talk to me anymore. Talk to my lawyer. Don't send me any more correspondences. Send everything to my lawyer. I will go through everything to my lawyer because they just keep lying. The system will lie to you, tell you that you have this to do, and then you have more to do, and then you have this to do, and we're going to recommend this, and we're going to recommend that, when all the while they're behind playing a little game, and then next thing you know, they're doing the total opposite of what they're telling you. So they're just stringing you along, and they hit you with bombshells when you get in court, and just switch everything on up. Don't allow them to do that. Stay on top of everything when it comes to these caseworkers, and get your lawyer involved. Have your lawyer CC'd in everything, so that your lawyer knows what's going on. My lawyer did a very, very good job, on my last court date, just being able to, point out various different things because she was involved. It's you against the system. You need to have as many people, on your side as possible, and it's not going to be that many. You're not going to have many people on your side, especially if you're a man. You're not going to have that many people on your side. Even if you're a woman, that came from incarceration, you're fighting a tough battle, to get your children back. So make sure that you build a relationship with your lawyer. Everybody wants to say, well, build a relationship with the caseworker, build a relationship with the guardian ad litem. Be respectful. Be respectful to them. You don't have to build a relationship with them, because the simple fact is they are there to, I'm going to say this lightly, they are there to protect your children. So they don't care about you. So in the protection of your children, they are keeping your children away from you. Okay, so understand that that's their job, to protect your children by keeping them away from you, so there's no way that they can be on your side. Be respectful, complete everything they ask you to do, but stay in contact with your children. I bought my children phones. As soon as I could, I bought my children phones. As soon as I reached the level to where I was able to have unmonitored visits with my children, where I didn't have to have nobody on the phone listening to me talk to them. I bought my children phones. Now they're probably going to come out with a law saying that, the children can't have phones. If they do that, hey, I encourage everybody to petition against that, because if I'm paying the phone bill and I have unmonitored visits where I can talk to my children and anytime that I want to, why can't my children have phones? So you have a lot of foster parents that don't want your children to have phones because they do a lot of wrong things in these foster homes, and they don't want your child to call you and let you know what's going on. Get your child a cell phone. Once you reach unmonitored visits, get your child a cell phone. So you can be able to talk to your child and know what it is that your child is going through, so that when you need to bring that to the attention of these caseworkers, these guardian ad litems, and so much and so forth, you can do it and know what it is that you're talking about. Stay in tune with your children is what I'm saying. So my daughter writes the lawyer and lets the lawyer know, hey, I want to go move with my brothers. Writes a very, very nice letter. I mean, I read it and it was very, very nice, very respectful and everything. The county attorney, I mean, not the county attorney, the lawyer ends up giving permission for my daughter to move in with her brother. Give permission to move in with her brother. But guess what I found out when I said, okay, make sure you keep writing your attorney. And I said, then I asked the guardian ad litem at a later meeting, at a later unmonitored visit. I asked her, who's the children's attorney? And she said, oh, it's my supervisor. Bombshell. Wow. So I can't even complain about the guardian ad litem to really anybody, because the guardian ad litem attorney, you know, is the guardian ad litem, her supervisor is the attorney for my children. Yet she has no dealings with my children. She knows nothing of my children. It's just going strictly off of what the guardian ad litem is saying about your parenting skills towards your children. You know what I'm saying? Get that understood. Get that understood. The guardian ad litem's attorney is your child's attorney, who knows nothing about the case because they are not involved in the case except for the information that they get from the guardian ad litem. You know, so with that being said, who do your children have to turn to when they need support? Nobody. Nobody. They can't turn, to their attorney because they don't really have an attorney. They're trying to get special things done and special requests done and express their concerns, and their concerns are getting squashed just like that because they don't want to be heard. They don't want to hear your child's concerns. The only thing they want to hear from your child as far as concerns is whatever they have negative to say about you as a parent. That's all they have. That's all they care about when it comes to your child, is whatever negative things they have to say about you as a parent. Okay? So understand that the guardian ad litem is not your friend. The caseworker is not your friend. The guardian ad litem attorney is not your friend. Because if they were your friend, or they were really looking in the best interest of your child, guess what? After everything I've done and everything I've accomplished and everything that I've shown them and all the positive things that I've represented to them, in their presence, they would be saying right now, after we're going on a year, but after probably 6 months, because I did nothing wrong. The children weren't taken from me. They weren't taken from me. So if the children weren't taken from me, and I complete all of your recommendations, why should my children not be returned back to me? So if they were your friend, then they would be saying to me, hey, the father's done everything he needs to do. He's shown us what he needs. He has stable housing. He has transportation. He has everything he needs. You know what? Let's send the child home, because it's in the best interest of the children for the children to be at home with the father. But no, that's not what they're saying. So understand that every little thing that you do, every little thing that you say that can be a negative, or every little thing that they perceive as a negative, they will write down. You make your own logs. You keep your own emails. Do everything through email. Everything through email. And if they don't respond to you, you write that down. Hey, I tried to reach out to such and such. They didn't respond to me. You know what I'm saying? You have to keep a timeline. If you don't keep a timeline, you're going to get lost in time. And then all this time is going to get by. And then next thing you know, they're going to be hitting you with more stuff. And then your children aren't going to be coming back home. Don't let the system beat you down so bad that you lose hope and faith. Trust me, I'm a very strong man, but the system has a way. They have a way of making you feel like it's hopeless. But you know what? You're not hopeless. The situation isn't hopeless. You just have to know the tools that you need to be able to effectively and respectfully be able to get what you want. But you have to. I don't believe in playing the game. I believe in doing what they ask you to do. You know what I'm saying? But staying in contact with your children and fighting for your children. That's what I believe. I don't believe in being emasculated as a man so that y'all can give me my children back, so that my children can get a lesser form of a man than the man that they left. Okay, no, I'm fighting for my children as a man. I will not conform to the ways that this system wants me to conform, which is to be a emasculated man. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm a very educated man who has served time in jail. I am not a criminal. I am an educated man who has served time in jail. Understand the difference, and if you are a criminal and you love your kids, then I implore you to do all the necessary things you need to do to make sure that you build a bond with your children and you do what you need to do to be able to get your children. Because if you are a good parent, and you know that you're a good parent and you know that your children love you, then you do everything you can to make sure you get your children back. You do not let the system beat you to the ground and emasculate you just so that they can potentially, possibly be able to take your children back again. Don't allow it to happen. Don't allow it to happen. I saw a mother in court. I saw a mother in court say, I don't want my children. I don't want my children. The system can do more for them than I can do. And the judge gave her children back like, oh no, oh no. We're not doing that. You're not going to use us. But here I am. I fight every day saying, why can't I get my children back? I've done everything I needed to do. And they say, no, you haven't done enough. You haven't been demasculated. When you conform and you be demasculated, then maybe we'll think about giving you back your kids. But until then, no, we're gonna ride out this system until we feel that you are ready to conform to our ways and do what we want to do. We want to put your kids on medication. We want to put your kids in therapy. Until you're ready to do that, then we'll talk about giving you your children back. But that's not what I'm going to do. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to give the children the necessary need. I'm going to give my children the necessary needs that they need to be successful and be good citizens, so that they can be the best individuals that they can be individually. So getting back to my daughter. So once I find out that the guardian ad litem's attorney was my children's attorney, I said, hey, there's no winning here. There's no winning here. So, basically my children stopped conversating with her, at the end of the day. But my daughter ended up moving in with my brother, with her brother, and then I'm gonna leave you with this last point that I'm gonna get into. And then later on, now my children, at the end of the day, my children are all over the place. They're upset. They're kind of frustrated. They're, they're acting out in school now and so much and so forth. And they're calling me, hey, we need you to control your children. Why are you calling me to control my children when you have them in your custody? My children aren't going to listen to you. They're not going to listen to you because you've taken them away from me, the person that's been their rock, for their entire lives. And now you put them in a system where they can do whatever they want without repercussions. There's nothing that y'all can do to them. There's nothing that you can do to my children. They're smart enough to understand that. So with that being known and that being said, now you want me to control them, but because I love my children, I'm going to do that. I'm going to control my children because I don't want them to be lost out here in the world. So I did control them, and I showed them the ways that they needed to get through and everything they needed to get through. And then what do I find out? I find out, and I'll speak more about this in the next episode, but I find out that, the therapists that the state and one of the organizations called Easter Seals that works for Easter Seals brought to my children ended up smoking weed with my child, or in the car with my child in the car. Not only that, but one of my daughter, who is not even on his case, what he picked her up and brought her in the car with him and with them and was smoking marijuana in the car with my daughter in the car. She's 14. Where did they do that at? Stay tuned for the next episode. We'll talk more about, this case, my case, and my advice for you as a parent facing your children in the foster care system. Don't allow the system to beat you down. Stay strong, stay connected to your children, and know everything and all things that are going on with your children. God loves you. Armageddon is upon us. Stay clear and do what you gotta do. The system hates you.